Okay, one thing that I've been kind of meaning to do and I haven't done it yet is that what I really want to do is I want to make sure that these fingertips are slightly more red than the rest of the body, and I also want to make sure that the tip of the ears are a little bit more red, along with this and you know, some other parts like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just create a new layer, and I'm going to very roughly go over this entire area, and I'm just going to make it red. Honestly, I think that's just how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go over with a red color like that. Now, I don't want it to be too saturated, although I can, I guess. I'm just going to go over that area. And at this point in time, I really probably don't need the alpha here. I'm going to use a slightly low RGB intensity. And I'm just going to paint over this section like that. And the reason why I'm going to do it like this is because I'm just going to go ahead and paint it, and then I'm just going to fade it out. I'm just going to take this slider here, and I'm just going to fade it out. Now, of course, later on I will also be doing something else as well, where I will be adding another layer where there will be veins painted, but that's going to happen a little bit later. Now, is this the best time for me to do this? I don't know quite yet. Usually texturing is really, I mean, if you've been doing it your whole life, I mean, I'm pretty sure you've got like a whole, you know, those artists probably have like a very good workflow for layering certain pieces and, you know, stuff like that up. But for me, I mean, right now, you know, I always find texturing to be kind of like a experimentative process. You know, it's always trial and error. Just try to make sure that you hit the right beats on certain parts. Okay, so I have these fingers that are kind of colored red. I'm going to do the same thing for the toes. Just going to go and paint that in like that, fade it out towards the tips there here. I'm going to do the same thing for the underneath, of course. I'm just going to try to fade it out here, maybe paint a little bit on there. And of course I'm going to do the exact same thing with these ears. Like that. And of course I could be really adding more differentiation of color in here as well. Not yet, but I will eventually. Of course I'll be adding some of that to the eyelid as well. Not too much, but just a bit. Of course in here, around the mouth. Now granted, it's usually, this kind of stuff is really reserved for areas that have thinner skin, so I probably shouldn't be doing it under here. But considering I will be fading it out, I might as well just go over some parts of the body and add in some of that red that's clearly missing. Especially if I make it subtle now and then I fade it out, I think that's going to look pretty nice. I'm just going to get out of symmetry mode for a second here, mostly because of the fact that these areas of the model are really not symmetrical at all. There's some parts of the body that are a lot more symmetrical than others, but for the most part, there's a few areas that are not. Okay, you know what? I might as well just add a little bit of redness here and just kind of fade it in. Now what I'm trying to really do is I'm just kind of trying to give off the effect of subsurface scattering kind of in a way, without actually having to use a shader for this. Okay, you know what? That's kind of done. And what I will do next is I will just go ahead and fade this out. So let's use the slider and let's see what we get. So it kind of went away. I'm just going to introduce it very subtly. Let's see how it looks with it on, then obviously off. Now, of course, I could make multiple layers with this. I could just keep piling this stuff on until I get just the right amount of red on certain parts of the body. .37. I think it's kind of killing some of the color around the fingers here, and it's making it, you know, I kind of overdid it over here, so I'm just going to fade it out some more until 1.4 maybe. I don't really see that much of a difference. I like to experiment with colors like that. Now, granted, the fingernails or the toenails here, I haven't really made a much variation in terms of color between the skin and the fingernails just yet. That's why you see, you know, these toenails looking very flat versus these fingers here look a lot better. And of course, it didn't really have much of an effect here, which is good. That means that when I start adding more color variation here, it's going to look a lot better. Now I could, of course, paint over this with, you know, a darker color, and add some spots onto this hand as I did here. And of course, I will be doing that a little bit later. But I kind of like the fact that I added some color. You know, it's really, really subtle. But I do like the change. Now I'm really not sure how that's going to appear on the final recording. But anyways, I did this, and I'm going to go to the next part. Doing something else, or maybe, you know what, let me just continue and add another layer, and I'm going to see how much I can change this by adding another variation of that color and painting it in as well here. And you know what, this time around I might as well just go ahead and just use an alpha. Maybe I'll choose the veins. You know what, this time I'm actually going to just apply it to very, very specific areas. Of course, I don't have symmetry on right now, which makes a huge difference. I'm just going to apply it to only a very few select areas. Then I'm going to fade it out exactly like I did with the layer above. No, fingers are always tricky. I always found fingernails to be tricky. Or not fingernails, but just fingers in general when it comes to texturing. I think it's going to look nice when I go ahead and just add more color on here, like I did on the fingers. Because right now that's kind of missing in here. I really probably should have been working in symmetry mode here, but oh wells. It's not the end of the world. Alright, you know what? Let's go ahead and just minimize that layer. Let's fade it out and then back in. Let's see what we get. I think 0.6 will do. Might be a little too strong, but I can always just go over with another layer altogether and just kind of glaze in that color and remove some parts that I don't like. But of course I can save that for a little bit later. So let's check out what we have so far. and kind of liking it. One thing that I don't really like right now is this arm right here. I mean, if I look at it from a very specific point of view, you know, this arm here, you could very specifically see these lines that I have. On this one, you could kind of see the same, but it's also kind of lumping up and breaking up. And I don't like that, so I might have to make some of these lines a little bit more pronounced and maybe add in, like you have these parts of the skin here that are kind of separating these stripes. But here it's kind of not working, so I'm going to have to change that up a little bit to make it appear more like that. And of course, again, I will have to go ahead and just remove symmetry and just change some of the stuff up, because right now we have a stripe here and that same stripe on this side in the exact same area, so I might have to just go ahead and just break it up slightly, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later. Now let's go ahead and just get out of solo mode. Let's see what we got so far. That's not too bad. I don't, however, like this. You see the model is kind of dark on here, but then you have this really, really light, lightly colored knee here. Or, I'm not really a fan of that. So what I will do is I will go ahead and just take some of this color, darken this up, and then I'm going to perhaps add a touch of red into here, but I'm going to use another layer for that. Of course, I'm going to save that for the next chapter.